Now, there is an urgent need for a national conversation on overcrowding in the Greater Accra region. That's according to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina Enim. In the latest census figures published by the Ghana Statistical Service, the Greater Accra region has overtaken Ashanti region as the most populous region in the country. The first time since the 1970s. Professor Kobina Enim spoke on the AM show.
This is indeed one of the striking things that as a country we should pay attention to. I mean, Greater Accra's population density, which we define as persons living in every square kilometer, is over 1,678 or 1,658. Yesterday in the presentation, I said, let's literally interpret what a square kilometer is. If you think about a square kilometer as 1,000 meters, so a square of 1,000 meters, and you have over 1,600 people living in that, it means you have about 1.6 people, 1.6 people literally living in every meter. So about 2 people living in every meter. Okay. Think about this from the perspective of how diseases can easily spread. So it is not just a matter of the pressure on the land, but it's a matter of the pressure and the implications of the crowding that we are getting in Greater Accra. Yeah. Greater Accra is the only region that between 2010 and 2021, population density, we are seeing a change of 442 persons per square kilometer. When nationally, we are seeing just about 25 persons per square kilometer. And this calls for a national discourse on how we are concentrating everything in Greater Accra, and the big question in there is the inequality. Because we all talk about poverty, but nobody talks about inequality. But what we are presenting now clearly presents inequality, so therefore people are moving from one area to another area in search of whatever resource they think it's there. So there's clearly concentration in the southern part of the country, but much more concentrated in Greater Accra.
Now, Professor Enim also explained that 1 in every 5 structures in the country is uncompleted. While here in the Greater Accra region, metal containers and wooden containers contribute to a huge chunk of the structures in the region.
The provisional results, Ghana has 10.7 million structures, and I'm always careful how we carry these messages along, because if you don't define the concept of structures very well, people might interpret it as conventional buildings and put other interpretation to it. So from our point of view, a structure is any independent or separate building or an enclosure which is at different levels of completion. It means that it could be fully completed or uncompleted, and also which is movable or unmovable. So in that space, we have different types of structures, i.e. conventional structures or conventional buildings for that matter, that is made of concrete, concrete, cement, mud, and the others which we call non-conventional, that is metal containers, kiosks, wooden structures, and the last group is other. So the 10.7 is made up of all this. And out of the 10.7, we were able to identify those that are used for residential purposes and those that are used for non-residential purposes. Obviously, we had a number of uncompleted buildings that we were unable to determine whether they were going to be used for residential or non-residential. And of the 10.7, 9.8, we were able to make a determination of it. And out of that, clearly, we had 55% out of that being residential, that is where people are staying, and the 45% being non-residential. The other thing that we did, as I indicated, is the different types of structures. And this is where we need to begin to think through it as a country in terms of the structures that we have and its implications for housing. As at this stage, we are not defining the housing deficit. Right. But clearly from yesterday's results, we put out there that 1 in every 5 structure that we have in the country is uncompleted.
And that's a significant.
1 in every 5 structure is uncompleted. And this is predominantly found in places that we all expect to see them, i.e. Ashanti region having the highest number of uncompleted structures, obviously followed by Greater Accra. And what happened in the space of Greater Accra is, although it had the highest number of structures, of the 9.8 million structures that we had, 2.1 of them are in Greater Accra. Besides that, you find that 15% of the 2.1 structures are metal containers.
Okay.
So all the metal containers that we have in the country, 15% of it is found in Greater Accra. And if we move to wooden structures, more than 50% of the wooden structures that we have in the country are also in Greater Accra.
Now, my colleague Maxwell Agbagba went to the ground. He went to Kofi Krom, a slum community here in Accra, where residents say they're forced to live in kiosks and other makeshift structures because they can't afford the high cost of rent.
It's in the heart of the capital, Accra. Well, people who live here have been compelled to live in these wooden structures. Many of them tell me that they are unable to afford the high cost of rent in Accra. They say that they have to pay 70 Ghana cedis monthly to live in these shacks. I've been speaking to Alhassan Abubakar. He is a driver and says his wife and children live with his grandmother, but he has been forced to live in this kiosk because he cannot pay.
If you want to go and rent room, it's too much of money. If you want to go and take it somewhere, they say you have to pay 2 years, 3 years advance before they will give you the room. They will handle the room to you. So we don't have that money. That's why we come hard ourselves for here. The way we knock some small kiosks, where we to be inside, where we to be sleep. Where we to take some give some people. Where that people to know, they know if they go rent that room to know, they know figure money where they will go rent that room. So our room to know, where we not come to know. A week, you know, a month, you know, we they take a month in 70 Ghana. We they take 3 months. 3 months because of houseless. Everybody no get some. So 3 months, you know, if you calculate them, then you pay, so that we handle the room for you. Okay. So if you dey inside 3 months, if the time reach, if you want to renew to her, so that you renew back to again. Because of the why we rent out at 70 Ghana, the plywood is cost. Oh, like if I get money, like somebody will go hold me, like me to I get my work where they do, and we will stay here.
I've also been speaking to Moro Abdullah. He's an Okada rider. He has also been compelled by his financial situation to live in this kiosk here.
I'm from Kumasi, where I come Accra. I did my uncle in there. I was like 7 years back. Still, I don't have money to rent room. So that's for me to rent. I see myself, so now I grow. So I supposed to leave my uncle though and come hustling place, come and hustle myself. Okay. So that's why I'm here. I try hustle to find some money and go and buy wood and come and do my own